Picture this. You're sitting in seat 23A, cruising at 35,000 feet. You glance toward the cockpit door and realize something unsettling. There's nobody up there. No pilot. No co-pilot. Just artificial intelligence making every decision about your life. Sound like science fiction? It's closer than you think. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most controversial topics in modern aviation. Artificial intelligence in the cockpit. And I'm not talking about autopilot. We've had that for decades. I'm talking about AI systems that can handle emergencies, make complex decisions, and potentially replace human pilots altogether. Now, before half of you click away thinking this is some conspiracy theory, let me be crystal clear. Major airlines, aircraft manufacturers, and even military forces are actively developing and testing these systems right now. In fact, the U.S. Air Force successfully flew an F-16 fighter jet controlled entirely by AI in 2024. The program is called Vista X-62A, and it marked the first time an AI agent dogfought against a human pilot. The AI won. But commercial aviation is a different beast entirely. When you're carrying 300 passengers, the stakes are infinitely higher. So where exactly are we in this journey toward AI-piloted aircraft? And more importantly, should we be worried or excited? Let's start with what's already happening. Right now, modern airliners like the Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 are equipped with incredibly sophisticated automation systems. These aren't your grandfather's autopilots. We're talking about systems that can execute an entire flight from takeoff to landing without human input. In perfect conditions, a modern airliner could theoretically fly itself completely. But here's the thing. No airline in the world allows this. Regulations require at least 2 qualified pilots in the cockpit at all times for commercial flights. Why? Because automation is only as good as the scenarios it was programmed to handle. When Air France Flight 447 crashed into the Atlantic Ocean in 2009, killing all 228 people on board, the aircraft's automation was working perfectly. The pilots, however, became confused when the autopilot disconnected due to iced over pitot tubes. In their confusion, they inadvertently stalled the aircraft and flew it into the ocean. The automation didn't fail. Human understanding of the automation did. This crash fundamentally changed how the aviation industry thinks about automation. It revealed a disturbing truth. The better our automation becomes, the worse pilots get at actually flying. It's called skill degradation, and it's a massive problem. When pilots spend 99% of their time monitoring computers instead of hand-flying aircraft, their manual flying skills atrophy. Then when an emergency happens and they need to take control, they're rusty, out of practice, and people die. So the industry found itself in a paradox. Automation makes flying safer overall. Statistics prove this beyond doubt. But automation also makes pilots less capable when things go wrong. And things always eventually go wrong. Enter artificial intelligence. And here's where things get interesting. Traditional automation follows rules. If this happens, do that. It's essentially a very complex flowchart. AI is different. Modern AI systems use machine learning to recognize patterns and make decisions based on vast amounts of data. They can handle situations they've never encountered before by drawing on their training. In theory, AI could bridge the gap that killed the passengers on Air France 447. Let me give you a real example. Garmin, the company famous for GPS devices, developed a system called Autoland. It's designed for small private aircraft, and it does exactly what the name suggests. If the pilot becomes incapacitated, passengers can press a single button. The AI takes over, finds the nearest suitable airport, communicates with air traffic control, navigates around weather and terrain, and lands the aircraft automatically. It even deploys the brakes and shuts down the engine. This system received FAA certification in 2020. It's not theoretical. It's installed in hundreds of aircraft flying right now, and it has already saved lives. In 2022, a passenger with no flying experience used Autoland to safely land a twin-engine turboprop after the pilot collapsed. The AI handled everything perfectly. Now scale that up. Imagine that same capability in a Boeing 777 with 350 passengers. An AI co-pilot that never gets tired, never gets distracted, never makes mistakes due to stress or emotion. An AI that has instant access to every aviation incident, every weather pattern, every aircraft system malfunction in history. An AI that can process information thousands of times faster than any human. Sounds pretty good, right? Here's where it gets complicated. Airbus has been researching single pilot operations for years. Not zero pilots. Single pilot. The idea is to replace the first officer with an AI co-pilot while keeping a human captain. They call it reduced crew operations. Their research shows that with proper AI assistance, one pilot could safely handle flights that currently require two. The AI would monitor systems, handle communications, assist with navigation, and take over if the human pilot becomes incapacitated. The economic incentive here is massive. Pilot salaries represent one of the largest operational costs for airlines. A senior wide-body captain at a major U.S. airline can earn over $400,000 per year. Multiply that across thousands of pilots and hundreds of aircraft, and you're looking at billions in potential savings. Airlines are absolutely interested. But here's what keeps aviation safety experts up at night. Redundancy. The reason we have two pilots isn't just about workload. It's about having a backup when things go catastrophically wrong. Two human brains that can communicate, collaborate, and catch each other's mistakes. Can AI really replace that? Let's talk about what AI can already do that's legitimately impressive. In 2023, researchers at MIT developed an AI system that could predict aircraft maintenance issues before they happened. By analyzing millions of data points from flight operations, the AI could detect subtle patterns indicating an impending component failure. In testing, it predicted maintenance problems an average of 30 days before they became critical. That's potentially life-saving. DARPA, the U.S. military's research wing, created an AI called Air Combat Evolution, or ACE. This AI was designed to dogfight against human pilots in simulated combat. The results were shocking. The AI won every single engagement. But here's what's really interesting. When human pilots studied the AI's tactics, they realized it was doing things no human would ever think to do. Maneuvers that violated traditional fighter-pilot doctrine, but were technically possible and devastatingly effective. The AI wasn't just matching human performance. It was innovating. Now let's bring this back to commercial aviation. Could AI handle the most famous emergency landing in aviation history? U.S. Airways Flight 1549. Captain Sully Sullenberger. The Hudson River. You know the story. Bird strike takes out both engines. Sully has seconds to make a decision. Return to LaGuardia? Try for Teterboro? No. He puts it in the river. All 155 souls survive. Engineers have run this scenario through AI simulators. The results are fascinating and controversial. Some AI systems chose to return to LaGuardia and crashed. Some chose Teterboro and crashed. But here's the thing. Some AI systems made the same decision as Sully. Ditch and Hudson. They recognized that neither airport was reachable and chose the best bad option. But, and this is crucial, the AI made this decision in milliseconds by calculating glide ratios, wind conditions, and distance to airports. Sully made it based on decades of experience, gut instinct, and an intimate understanding of what his aircraft could and couldn't do. Both arrived at the same answer, but through completely different processes. Which approach is better? That's the billion-dollar question. Here's another angle. Human pilots bring something to the cockpit that no AI currently possesses. Creative problem-solving in completely novel situations. Let me tell you about British Airways Flight 9 in 1982. A Boeing 747 flying over Indonesia at night. All four engines flame out. Completely dead. The aircraft becomes a 200-ton glider at 37,000 feet. Captain Eric Moody and his crew had no idea what was happening. Unknown to them, they'd flown through a volcanic ash cloud from Mount Galunggung. Volcanic ash had choked all four engines. This had never happened before in the history of aviation. There was no procedure, no training, no computer program to handle it. What did Captain Moody do? He got creative. As the aircraft descended through 13,000 feet, he decided to try restarting the engines in the thicker air at lower altitude. It worked. He managed to restart all four engines and land safely in Jakarta. His famous announcement to passengers? Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a small problem. All four engines have stopped. We are doing our damnedest to get them going again. I trust you're not in too much distress. British understatement at its finest. But here's my point. Could an AI have solved that problem? Maybe. If it had been trained on engine restart procedures and understood the physics of combustion at different altitudes. But what if the solution required thinking completely outside the box? What if it required the kind of creative desperation that humans excel at when facing death? Now let's address the elephant in the room. Trust. Would you board an aircraft with no human pilot? Be honest. Even if statistics proved it was safer, would you do it? A survey conducted by the International Air Transport Association in 2023 found that 71% of passengers were uncomfortable with the idea of AI-piloted aircraft. Interestingly, this number dropped significantly among younger passengers. Only 52% of passengers under 30 expressed discomfort, compared to 89% of passengers over 60. But here's what's fascinating. That same survey found that 58% of passengers didn't realize how much automation already controls their flights. Most people assume the pilots are actively flying the aircraft for most of the journey. They're not. On a typical flight from New York to London, human pilots might only hand-fly the aircraft for a total of 10 to 15 minutes. The rest is automation. So we already trust AI to fly us around. We just want humans there to supervise. But is that sustainable? Let's talk about the pilot shortage. It's real, and it's getting worse. The FAA estimates that U.S. airlines will need to hire approximately 14,500 new pilots every year for the next decade just to keep up with retirements and growth. Globally, Boeing projects the industry will need 602,000 new pilots by 2041. That's more than 500,000 pilots. Here's the problem. Becoming a commercial airline pilot is expensive and time-consuming. In the United States, aspiring pilots need at least 1,500 flight hours to qualify for an airline transport pilot license. Getting those hours costs anywhere from $80,000 to $150,000. It takes years. And the starting salary at regional airlines is often barely $40,000 per year. This creates a pipeline problem. Not enough people are willing to invest that much time and money for such modest starting pay. Meanwhile, airlines are desperate for pilots. Some regional airlines have canceled routes because they literally can't find enough pilots to fly them. AI could solve this problem overnight. Or at least single pilot operations with AI assistance could. Cut the pilot requirement in half, and suddenly you have twice as many available crews. But at what cost? Let me share something that doesn't get talked about enough. The social dynamic in the cockpit. Crew Resource Management, or CRM, revolutionized aviation safety in the 1980s. It's the practice of ensuring effective communication and decision-making between crew members. Studies have proven that two pilots working together catch more mistakes, make better decisions under pressure, and handle emergencies more effectively than one pilot alone. There are countless examples of co-pilots saving flights because they question the captain's decisions. United Airlines Flight 173 in 1978. The captain became fixated on a landing gear problem and ignored warnings about fuel levels. The first officer and flight engineer tried to alert him, but the hierarchical culture at the time discouraged challenging the captain. The aircraft ran out of fuel and crashed, killing 10 people. This accident led to modern CRM training, which emphasizes that any crew member can and should speak up about safety concerns. AI doesn't have ego. It doesn't get defensive when questioned. But it also doesn't have the nuanced understanding of human communication. It can't read body language. It can't sense when a pilot is stressed, fatigued, or making decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Or can it? Recent developments in AI are genuinely mind-blowing. Computer vision systems can now analyze a pilot's facial expressions, eye movements, and body language to detect fatigue, stress, or cognitive overload. Some experimental systems can even measure heart rate and breathing patterns through cameras. The AI can literally monitor the pilot's mental state in real time. Imagine an AI co-pilot that notices the human pilot is becoming overwhelmed during an emergency. It could proactively take over certain tasks, simplify information displays, or even suggest taking a moment to breathe and reassess. This isn't science fiction. Prototype systems are being tested right now. But here's where things get ethically murky. If an AI determines that a human pilot is impaired or making dangerous decisions, should it have the authority to override them? To take control of the aircraft against the pilot's wishes? This happened in a sense during the crash of Germanwings Flight 9525 in 2015. The co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz, deliberately crashed the aircraft into the French Alps, killing all 150 people on board. He locked the captain out of the cockpit and flew the Airbus A320 straight into a mountain. Could AI have prevented this? Absolutely. If the AI had authority to override the human pilot's inputs when they became suicidal, those 150 people would be alive today. But giving AI that kind of authority opens a Pandora's box. What if the AI makes a mistake? What if it incorrectly interprets a pilot's actions as threatening when they're actually executing an unorthodox but correct emergency procedure? The certification authorities are wrestling with this exact question right now. The FAA and EASA, Europe's aviation regulator, are developing new frameworks for certifying AI systems. It's incredibly complex. Traditional aircraft certification is based on demonstrating that systems behave predictably in all scenarios. But AI, especially machine learning-based AI, doesn't always behave predictably. It learns and adapts. How do you certify something that might behave differently tomorrow than it does today? Here's a real concern: adversarial attacks. Researchers have demonstrated that AI systems can be fooled by carefully crafted inputs. For example, researchers at the University of California showed they could make an image recognition AI misidentify a stop sign as a speed limit sign by adding tiny, almost invisible stickers to it. The human eye sees a normal stop sign. The AI sees something completely different. Now imagine a malicious actor finding a way to fool the AI in an aircraft. Feed it false data that it interprets as normal. Make it think the aircraft is climbing when it's descending. Make it think the engines are healthy when they're failing. Terrifying, right? The counterargument is that human pilots can also be fooled. They can misread instruments. They can fall victim to optical illusions. They can be intentionally deceived. But humans have common sense and the ability to cross-check information using multiple sources and instincts. AI only knows what its sensors and training tell it. This is why most experts believe the future isn't zero pilots. It's human-AI collaboration. The AI handles routine operations, monitors thousands of parameters simultaneously, and never gets tired. The human provides judgment, creativity, and the ability to handle truly novel situations. Together, they're stronger than either alone. So let's talk about what the actual future probably looks like. Multiple pathways are being developed simultaneously. First, enhanced autopilots with AI assistance. This is already here. Modern flight management systems are incorporating machine learning to optimize fuel consumption, predict turbulence, and suggest more efficient routes. The AI isn't flying the plane. It's making the human pilots more effective. Second, AI co-pilots for single-pilot operations. This is probably 10 to 15 years away for commercial aviation. Extensive testing is underway. The technology exists. The regulatory framework is being developed. The public acceptance is the biggest hurdle. Third, fully autonomous cargo aircraft. This is where we'll likely see pilotless aircraft first. FedEx and UPS are both investing heavily in autonomous cargo operations. No passengers means lower regulatory barriers. If a cargo AI makes a mistake, you lose boxes, not lives. It's still serious, but the ethical calculation is different. Unmanned cargo flights could begin as early as 2030 on certain routes, probably starting with late-night operations in good weather over sparsely populated areas. As the technology proves itself, operations would expand. Fourth, and this is further out, pilotless passenger aircraft. I'd estimate we're 25 to 30 years away from this being a reality. Maybe longer. The technology will be ready before society is. Getting passengers to trust AI pilots will take a generation. Here's something interesting. Many younger people are actually more comfortable with the idea of AI pilots than older generations. They've grown up with self-driving cars, AI assistants, and algorithms making important decisions. To them, an AI pilot isn't scary. It's natural. Give it 20 years, and those young people will be the middle-aged passengers making travel decisions. But even in a future with AI pilots, I don't think human pilots disappear entirely. I think they become supervisors and specialists. Instead of two pilots in every cockpit, you might have one pilot monitoring multiple aircraft from the ground. Or human pilots who specialize in handling situations that AI struggles with. Or pilots who fly the most challenging routes while AI handles the routine ones. The military is already moving in this direction. The U.S. Air Force's Skyborg program is developing AI wingmen for fighter jets. The idea is one human-piloted aircraft leading a formation of AI-controlled drones. The human makes strategic decisions. The AI executes tactics and handles the dangerous stuff. Commercial aviation will likely follow a similar path. Not elimination of pilots, but transformation of the role. Now let's address some common misconceptions. People often say AI will never match human intuition. But what is intuition? It's pattern recognition based on experience. And AI is actually better at pattern recognition than humans. What we call a pilot's gut feeling is their brain unconsciously recognizing a pattern from past experience. AI can do the same thing, just faster and with access to vastly more data. People also say AI lacks common sense. That's true. Current AI can be fooled by situations that any human would immediately recognize as absurd. But this is improving rapidly. The latest generation of AI systems, trained on massive datasets, are developing something that resembles common sense reasoning. Here's what keeps me up at night, though. Not the technology. The economics. Airlines are businesses. They exist to make money. If AI pilots are cheaper than human pilots, airlines will push hard for them. Probably harder than safety margins would ideally allow. Regulations will slow this down, but economic pressure is relentless. Let me share some final thoughts. I've spent over 25 minutes talking about AI in cockpits, and I haven't given you a simple answer about whether it's good or bad. That's because there isn't a simple answer. AI in aviation is inevitable. The technology works. The economic incentives are massive. The pilot shortage is real. And honestly, AI will probably make flying statistically safer than it already is. Aviation is already the safest form of transportation in human history, and AI will make it even safer. But safety isn't just statistics. It's also about trust, about human judgment in unprecedented situations, and about who we want making life and death decisions. Here's what I know for certain. The transition to AI-assisted and eventually AI-piloted aircraft will happen gradually. Not because the technology requires it, but because humans require it. We need time to build trust. We need to see the systems work flawlessly thousands of times before we're comfortable removing the human backup. And you know what? That's probably good. Rushing this would be dangerous. Taking our time, testing extensively, learning from small setbacks before they become large disasters. That's the aviation way. The industry has an incredible safety record because it learns from every mistake and refuses to repeat them. The pilots I've talked to have mixed feelings. Older pilots often see AI as a threat. Younger pilots see it as a tool. But almost all of them agree on one thing. Flying is more than just operating machinery. It's a craft, a skill, an art. There's joy in it, pride in it, a sense of responsibility that comes from holding people's lives in your hands. Can AI ever feel that? Should it? I don't know. What I do know is that 20 years from now, aviation will look very different than it does today. You might board a flight where an AI is genuinely in control. Your children almost certainly will. And if the industry does this right, those flights will be safer, more efficient, and more accessible than ever before. But we'll lose something too. That romantic notion of the skilled aviator, hand flying through a storm, using experience and instinct to bring everyone home safely. That image has defined aviation for over a century. It's changing. Is that progress or loss? Maybe it's both. Here's my final thought. Technology should serve humanity, not replace it. AI in the cockpit should make pilots more capable, not obsolete. It should handle the routine so humans can focus on the exceptional. It should be a tool that amplifies human judgment, not a substitute for it. Whether that's how it actually unfolds depends on choices we make today. As passengers, as voters, as a society, we get to decide how much we trust machines with our lives. We get to decide what role humans play in an increasingly automated world. The skies are changing. Let's make sure we're changing them in the right direction. Thanks for watching. If you found this deep dive into AI and aviation interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more aviation content. Drop a comment below. Would you fly on a pilotless aircraft? I'm genuinely curious. And I'll see you in the next video.